Once upon a time, in a quaint little village nestled deep within a dense, enchanted forest, there lived a sweet and innocent girl named Little Red Riding Hood. She was known far and wide for her vibrant red cloak, which her grandmother had lovingly knitted for her. Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother lived on the other side of the forest, and the young girl would often visit her with a basket of goodies. One sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her into the kitchen. "My dear," she said, "your grandmother is feeling unwell. I have prepared a basket of fresh fruits, baked goods, and a pot of her favorite homemade soup. Would you be a dear and take it to her?" Little Red Riding Hood nodded eagerly, her heart filled with love for her grandmother. She carefully packed the basket and donned her red cloak, which was so bright it could be seen from miles away. "Be sure to stay on the path and not to talk to strangers," her mother cautioned. Little Red Riding Hood assured her mother that she would follow her instructions and set off on her journey through the enchanted forest. As Little Red Riding Hood ventured deeper into the woods, she couldn't help but admire the beauty of nature around her. The birds sang melodious tunes, and the sun cast dappled shadows through the thick canopy of trees. She skipped along the winding path, her red cloak trailing behind her like a crimson ribbon. However, unbeknownst to Little Red Riding Hood, a cunning and sly wolf had been watching her from the shadows. The wolf, with gleaming yellow eyes and a sly grin, had other plans for the sweet girl. The wolf, eager to outwit the young girl, took a shortcut through the dense underbrush to reach her grandmother's house before she did. He arrived at the cottage first, where the grandmother lay in her bed, feeling very ill. The wolf, impersonating Little Red Riding Hood's voice, called out, "Grandma, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some goodies to make you feel better." The grandmother, unable to see clearly due to her illness, replied, "Come in, dear. The door is unlocked." With that, the wolf entered the cottage and gobbled up the grandmother in one swift gulp, disguising himself in her nightgown and lying in wait for Little Red Riding Hood. Soon enough, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at her grandmother's house. She knocked gently on the door and called out, "Grandma, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood." The wolf, feigning a weak voice, replied, "Come in, dear. I'm not feeling well." Little Red Riding Hood entered the cottage and was surprised to find her grandmother lying in bed with the covers pulled up to her chin, casting shadows across her face. "Grandma, what big eyes you have," Little Red Riding Hood remarked, approaching the bed. "The better to see you with, my dear," the wolf replied, his voice still disguised. "Grandma, what big ears you have," she continued. "The better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf. "Grandma, what big teeth you have!" Little Red Riding Hood exclaimed. The wolf couldn't contain his excitement any longer. He leaped out of bed, revealing his true form, and snarled, "The better to eat you with." With that, he pounced on Little Red Riding Hood. Just as the wolf lunged toward her, a brave woodsman who had been passing by the cottage burst through the door. He had heard the commotion and rushed to Little Red Riding Hood's rescue. With a swing of his axe, the woodsman defeated the wicked wolf, saving Little Red Riding Hood from a terrible fate. The grandmother, who had been freed from the wolf's belly, was safe and sound. From that day forward, Little Red Riding Hood learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of talking to strangers and straying from the path. She and her grandmother lived happily ever after, with the woodsman becoming a dear friend to their family. And so, in the heart of the enchanted forest, the story of Little Red Riding Hood's adventure became a cautionary tale, reminding everyone to be wary of wolves in disguise and to always listen to their mother's wise advice.